Good afternoon, everyone. As many of you know, my name is Prue Klein and I'm the Marketing Coordinator here at Wine Communicators of Australia. Today, we have the pleasure of having Stacey from Digital Strategist at Parallax joining us, which is a brand and communication design consultancy firm based in Adelaide, South Australia. In this webinar, Erica will take us through the process Parallax use to create successful marketing strategies for their clients. She'll also share some practical tips and some low, no cost marketing tactics that you can implement in your business immediately. If you have any questions, we have certainly allowed plenty of time for these to be asked at the end of the webinar. However, feel free to send them through to me as they come to mind. You can do this via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. As usual, the webinar will be recorded and a link to the recording will be sent to you should you wish to watch the content again at a later stage. It is now my pleasure to hand over to Erica for today's presentation. Thanks, Erica.
Thanks so much, Prue, and thank you everyone for joining today. Very happy to share these tips and advice that we have and use, as Prue mentioned, in our work at Parallax Design as well. Before I jump into those, I'll just give you a little bit more background about who we are and what we do. So our whole aim, here we go. Oops. We help wine businesses sell more wine at higher margins. So starting off as a design studio, we were founded by Matthew Remfrey, who's pictured there in the middle, 20 years ago. So we're just celebrating our 20th year this year. And Matthew had some experience, quite a bit of experience in wine prior to starting Parallax. And this has certainly grown over the years as well to become a specialist area. Matthew was joined by Kelly Campbell-Illingworth, our senior designer and partner, a few years later, and we've now grown to a core team of 7. So I'm actually one of the newest members of our team and was brought on board last year to specifically help our clients manage their digital. A lot of it was in relation to the pandemic, because I'm sure a lot of you can appreciate there were some huge changes and opportunities, particularly with D2C. And so I now work directly with our clients, helping them develop those digital strategies and then support or directly manage the implementation and ongoing work with them. So I've been working in digital specifically now for 13 years, and I'm sure you can imagine it's changed a lot during that time. So that's across all aspects of website, SEO, social media, email marketing, online advertising, and more. So excited to share a lot of those with you today as well. So as Parallax, our core capabilities, which I'm going to be running you through this process today, are strategy, brand, and route to market. So the strategy is really the what we want to achieve, and also who we're looking to reach and connect with as well. And this is really fundamental to the work that we do with ensuring we understand that. Brand, being a design studio, is obviously very important to us as well. But we take this beyond not just the visual brand with a logo and a label, but looking at all aspects of the brand personality, the brand story, how it's communicated through the written word, the visual medium, particularly when it comes to those online marketing strategies as well. And then our route to market are all of the ways that we're actually helping our clients connect and reach with their audiences and get their product or their brand to them. So this is not just through traditional distribution channels, but as we are seeing now, also a lot of direct-to-consumer channels as well. And these three capabilities often obviously extend into lots of different areas as well. So it can be quite overwhelming. We have, for a small team, a really broad breadth of services here that we work with, from small wineries up to really large organisations as well, across all aspects of their design, branding, marketing, cellar door fit out, signage, etc., etc. Here's just a snapshot of some of the clients that we've worked with over the years. So should be a few logos that you recognise here. Obviously really lucky to be located in South Australia with so many wine regions close by, but also work with a lot of the wonderful interstate wine regions and wine brands as well. So really broad breadth of services. And as I mentioned, the work we do now definitely goes beyond simply logo and label work. Obviously, there's an extension where it goes into packaging, gifting, merchandise, digital, but also a lot more work in events and full campaign concept development, rollout, content creation, a lot of work with our clients, planning and art directing photo shoots for them so that they've got content to share on their websites through their social channels and emails as well. A little bit of a mix there. So thank you for that. Hope that's given you a little bit of background into who we are and what we do. And as Prue said, I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a highlight into the process that we follow working with our clients to really build and enhance their brand. So you may be doing some of these already. But what I really want to stress about this session is I'm sure there's going to be some opportunities for you to either enhance what you're doing or start something new. Some of these might seem quite simple, but often it's those little things that when done well and done consistently really do produce great, memorable brands. And that's what we want to help you achieve today. I also don't want you to be overwhelmed. I am trying to cover quite a lot in a short space of time. But it's really about just picking out, and what I'd love you to be able to do is pick one or two things that you can start on or improve on directly following this session. And as Prue said, if you've got any questions, do let her know. I'm happy to chat more at the end and afterwards as well. So we'll start off with strategy. As I mentioned, that's our first area that we always start with the work that we do with our clients. And it's important to make that distinction with the reason we start with strategy, and rather than jumping into designing a logo or designing a label or even designing a website, is really to take that time to think about and plan what it is that our clients want to achieve, so that we can then make the best recommendations and come up with the best results. So the way that we work in these scenarios is to hold a workshop or a series of workshops with the key stakeholders, but this is something that you can do yourself as well. And it's absolutely worthwhile taking the time to do so. So it may be a case of getting the core people of your team together in a room and having this discussion with them about your organisation and what it is that you want to achieve. So as I mentioned, it's all about starting with your strategy, not with your tactics. So we're not going to jump into trying to solve the problem yet, but really highlight what it is that we want people to know us for. What do we stand for? Who are we? What do we want to be famous for? What is that picture, that memory that we want to create, or that legacy that we want to give to people? And this is obviously going beyond a business strategy of selling wine, for example, and it's really valuable when you can drill down to something that's quite unique and particular to your business, because unfortunately in the wine industry, as you will know, it is incredibly competitive. So where we can find that unique point that differentiates us. And it doesn't necessarily need to be something like a mission statement that we share, but it's something fundamental that drives all the activities that we do and how we act and perform within our business. So, and some of these are taken from some of our client examples. Some of them are a few, starting points or thoughts for you, but it might be something like wanting to leave the world a better place than we found it. So fundamentally, we're producing wine, we're selling wine, but in doing that, we actually want to really have and demonstrate that care and consideration we have for the environment. It might be wanting to help people celebrate, be that first go-to consideration when something exciting happens in someone's life or someone's world. They think about your brand and your wine to come and purchase and be part of that celebration with their friends and family. It might be creating and leaving a legacy for your own family. It might be something like that you're actually wanting to build a wine brand that you can pass on to your family or your children and give something back to them. It might be related to the local community. and demonstrating that importance of the local region, the local community. So like I said, it's going to take some time to come up with this, but it's worthwhile, like I said, getting the right people in the room, setting aside some dedicated time, avoiding distractions, and working through these kind of questions and conversations to come up with some answers that are really going to drive your business and brand strategy. Another important aspect of strategy is not just who we are and what we want to do, but who our ideal customers are and what they want as well. So it's really people focused here on us, but also our customers as well. And you might have some existing information that you can use for this. So often there might be some data, particularly demographic data, that you can get from your website, statistics, your social media audience, an email list or database that can help you understand who those people are who are interested in your wine and buying from you to help define that audience. But if you have a cellar door in particular, you can also have the opportunity to, you probably know personally some of your current customers and who they are, what's important to them, what they want, and you can have those real conversations with them to start to define those audiences. Because keeping in mind who your audience are and what they want out of you can really ease a lot of those decisions that you then make about your marketing activities and tactics and other business decisions when they're really put front and centre. So not necessarily something you're going to knock off in a short amount of time, hopefully. And like I said, you may have actually gone through this already and have a really clear picture of who you are and who your audience is. But if you're unsure, like I said, spend that time, have that workshop internally, but also make sure you're documenting and sharing the outcomes of that discussion with your team. Everybody who works within your organisation should really know and understand the business, what its purpose is, and who we're trying to reach and connect with as well. It's really valuable. So like I said, this information can then be used as that basis for developing relevant marketing tactics rather than starting with the tactics. Strategy is also, just before I start, it's also something that's worth revisiting. It might be something that's worth revisiting, even say annually, to look at to see if you're still on track. Are our customers who we thought they were? Is what we want to achieve what we thought it was? Or you might, if there's some significant changes. So we certainly had a lot of these discussions in 2020 when there were so many changes going on due to the pandemic with our clients, where they were having to adjust their strategies. We're able to come back and look at, okay, are our core goals and what we want to achieve, is this still viable at the moment? Do we have to make some changes? Do we need to look at new audiences, or are our audiences naturally changing? And that might be a temporary adjustment of direction or something you adopt long-term as well. You'll see in the bottom corner as well, I've just popped down a few extra resources that we recommend. We're talking about low cost and no cost here. So we do actually have a lot of videos available on our website and on our social channels that talk about this topic, where Matthew's sharing his experience, because it's certainly his area of expertise with branding as well. And there's also a summary slide at the end that lists all of these resources. So don't feel that you have to scribble them all down. And like Prue said, you'll get a recording at the end, so you'll be able to access these. So following on from strategy, and almost hand in hand, is brand. So we did talk about brand as one of the core aspects of the services that we provide, and being a design studio is obviously very fundamental to what we do. But as I mentioned, it goes beyond simply logo and label. They are important, but they're not everything, they're not all. There's that further extension of how we communicate, the tone of voice we use in the language, the actual way we write our descriptions on the label, the way that our website looks and feels and interacts, the copy on the website, how our social channels look. So many aspects of that brand personality that we need to try and communicate to reach and engage with our audience. So again, this is something that we typically work through with a lot of research and workshops, and does go hand in hand with strategy. So once we've defined what it is that we want to achieve, who we are and who our audience is, we then move on to how are we going to visually, verbally, and in the written word communicate that. And the way we like to describe it is that our brand is our reputation. This is how people perceive us, and we can control and influence how we are perceived. It should be something that we can communicate through all of our marketing efforts, all of those visual aspects of our brand, but even to the extent of how we answer the phone, how we greet people when they enter the cellar door, how we respond to emails, how we deal with customer service queries. All of that is a part of our brand. And again, there's no right or wrong answer for this, and you may have worked through this already, and well done if you have. But it's good to look at the market and think about the audience that you're in, because there can be two ways to approach it. Do you want to fit in? So if you are in the sparkling category, for example, there's certain things that are expected of brands that, particularly premium brands in the sparkling category. And is that something that you want to do? Does that fit with who you are and who your customer, your ideal customer is? Or do you want to stand out? So we can think about brand from those different aspects as well, because that's going to help influence those decisions. And again, we want to work through this with our team, or at least make sure they understand it. So have it documented, share those outcomes. Sometimes this might be like a formal brand style guide, which can be really helpful for you to share with other providers, particularly if you're contracting them to do signage or design work for you. But it should be something you can communicate with the people you work with to make sure there's that consistent look and feel across all those touch points that people have with your brand. Again, that influence the tactics. So starting off there with a couple of biggies. Like I said, we could have entire sessions about these topics, but certainly fundamentally understanding your strategy and your brand and having that strong foundation is really going to make all of those marketing and marketing tactics and activities that you take so much easier to understand when you can measure them back against, does this opportunity or does this activity support who we are? Is it going to connect with our audience? And does it represent and reflect our brand? Or can we? So a little bit to ponder there, a little bit of work to do possibly, but certainly worthwhile doing this fundamental work, because then we get to jump into the fun tactical stuff where I get to do most of my playing. So number 3, and a little bit of a spoiler alert, these last points in our 7 are all to do with that third category of work that we do with route to market. And website is certainly a big one to start with. Again, I've selected some topics in here that we could do entire webinars or entire webinar series on. But I think it's important to touch on these because they are aspects, particularly when it comes to digital, that a lot of businesses and brands have already, but aren't always utilising to their best extent. And it's such a valuable opportunity to enhance, particularly once you've already invested in it. There's so much that you can do there for free or at that low or no cost. So we're going to get very practical now. And I do find with websites, they can often be taken for granted. They've either always existed, we have them because it's expected these days, but they're such a valuable asset. Like I like to think about it, it's your 24/7 team member. They are constantly working for you. They are always up there, drumming away, talking about your brand. If you've got an online store, they're selling products for you day and night, year after year. So they're absolutely worthwhile spending the time to take care and look after. Now, I'm not going to answer the question about what is the best website. We work across a whole different range of website platforms, and I know there's a lot of different factors that go into deciding on a website platform. And budget is a big consideration. What I really want to focus on more today is considering your existing website and working with your existing website and making it the best that it can be, because we can enhance what it is that we have already. So here's my top tips for things that you can do and should be doing to really enhance that valuable employee of the month. The first thing, and again, like I said, unfortunately, I do see this often neglected websites, is it's really important, like as that valuable business asset, to understand how your website works and to keep that important information up to date. So the vast majority of websites these days, and I haven't seen one for a long time that isn't, use a content management system. There should be some type of content management platform that allows us non-developers to be able to log in and edit and access the written and the image content on our website, sometimes even video. So sometimes this work is left to developers or the person who set up the website, but if you've invested in that website for your business, it's worthwhile making sure you are keeping it up to date, keeping all that information as fresh and relevant as possible, so that whenever somebody's coming to your site, they're getting the most up-to-date current information. And this can be things like making sure our seller door and opening hours page and information is current. Particularly, unfortunately, in the crisis we find ourselves in at the moment, when they're opening and closing and changing so often. So you want to be able to know you can get in there quite quickly, make those changes so that people are actually getting up-to-date information, and it might even save you and your team time from answering those types of questions if people are unsure. Homepages. Homepages are a really valuable way of communicating your brand and sharing what's happening, in your brand and in your winery. So a lot of websites will actually have, hero images on the page. Some of them never ever change, but to me, that's a valuable space to share the seasonal changes that might be occurring in your region, at your winery, at your cellar door, feature different products that are in season, and make sure that if you are getting those repeat visitors who are coming back, and ideally repeat customers, which is what we want, that they're seeing something a little bit fresh and a little bit new each time as well. It shows that kind of care and interest we have in maintaining, this website of ours. Awards, if you're getting awards, congratulations. But make sure we're sharing that with other people as well. So popping that on the product page, you might be sharing, if you have a news or a blog section, making sure you're sharing that those awards through there as well. Making sure about information is kept up to date. Often it's not something that changes a lot, particularly if you're a family owned and operated business, but there could be some changes with younger family members coming on board. Some people might be transitioning out. Just making sure information is kept up to date, fresh photos, those types of things. Contact details, we want to make sure they're correct, that people are calling the right number, getting the right email address, the address is correct, all those types of things. And particularly if you have an e-commerce website or an online store, the ability for you to easily edit and access those wines, packs and pricing as well. So you can respond quite quickly if an opportunity comes up. Again, like we've seen through recent lockdowns, those businesses that have been able to, quickly put on sales, put on discounts. It sounds really simple, and like I said, often the simple things when they're done well, are a little bit taken for granted, but so valuable. And so there should be some information. Most content management systems should have information about their documentation, or it's something that you should be able to get from your developer or your website supplier, but worthwhile having at least one, if not a couple of people in the business who are really confident with editing and updating your website. Just a little note, like I've got down there, on that news and awards information. So obviously it's great to share it on your own website, but really useful to share with media and wine writers as well to get the news out with others. And Wine Communicators Australia do have some really great tips and contact lists for their winery and business members that are available on the website. So there's a wine media guide that's available for those types of members as well. And I have that listed in the resources section as well. So a little bit more to go on the website. Obviously there's the content and making sure we're keeping that nice and fresh. But there's one of my other favourite things is the data. So I'm a real numbers nerd. And one of my absolute favourite things is looking at data that comes from websites and other digital platforms such as Google Analytics. So this, if you're not familiar with it already, takes the guesswork out of how our visitors are interacting with our site and how our website is actually performing. And it still shocks me the number of people and websites that I deal with who actually don't, there might be an assumption of how their website's performing, but there's no data to actually back it up as well. And we might be able to see things like the number of sales that are coming from our site, but if we can't compare that with the number of visitors to our site, we're getting a little bit of a skewed perspective on how the website's actually performing. So again, a lot of developers will actually install Google Analytics when they first build and launch your site, but they don't always, so it's worth checking and making sure you have access to it as well. So this is a free tool, and I stress this is a free tool from Google. They do have a paid version, but it's very high-end enterprise. The entry-level free Google Analytics works for the vast majority of websites, and it's what we use across all our client sites. And if you have an online store, then I recommend installing the e-commerce tracking as well. Again, this will depend on your website. In some cases, it's as easy as turning it on, and the website platform that you use will automatically recognise and start putting that sales data through. But in some instances, it might need some developer support as well. So do check that with your site. But there's so much valuable information that you can find out about who's coming to your website, where they're coming from, how they're finding your website, if it's through search, through email, being referred from other websites, from social, you know, if they're looking at it on a laptop or a phone, how different products are performing. Really, really valuable information that's worthwhile looking at and understanding, and is freely available for you as well. It can help, it completely takes the guesswork out of those decisions, and you can have those numbers and that data that can then help you improve your future marketing activities and future sales as well. Google Analytics also offers some really great free training videos and training resources in the Google Analytics Academy. So as well as having information on how to install, you can watch those videos freely available and get a better understanding about your website and your data as well. So I hope you can have a look and get as excited about the website data as I do. Number 4, email marketing. Again, all topics of themselves. And I know that Georgia Rasmussen did a fantastic email webinar all about email marketing, or list growth, focusing more so on list growth a couple of months ago. If you haven't watched that yet, I do recommend going back and watching it. But I wanted to mention it again because it's certainly one of the most valuable, low or potentially even no cost activities you can do to build your brand, and is still incredibly relevant today. So while thankfully I haven't heard it for a while, but even a couple of years ago, there would be comments about people saying that email is dead, it's all about social media. Thankfully, we've seen some changes in the attitudes towards that, and the value of your email list is absolutely incredible. So a good quality email list, so we're talking about that list of email subscribers that is sent regular and relevant email campaigns and offers, so this is where we can be quite salesy, tend to have a far higher conversion rate and average order value for those online direct to consumer sales. And I think we underestimate or take for granted, like if someone has subscribed, they've given you their email address and they've said, you can contact me directly. I want to hear from you. So this is, as opposed to a follow or a like on social media, someone's gone, here it is, you can contact me. And obviously they've still got that opportunity to unsubscribe, but incredibly valuable. And just to, to illustrate that a little bit, I have some Google Analytics screenshots on here that you can hopefully see from some analysis I did for a client recently. And we're looking back on the last 12 months of activity on their website, specifically looking at email. And of the visitors to their website, 10% of their overall visitors came from email. When 10% might sound like a small amount. However, that 10% of visitors made up 38% of online revenue. So like I said, that much higher conversion rate because they were really interested in finding out more about the winery, about the products, and then they're getting their emails, they're coming back to the website and they're buying. So they're getting those regular emails, coming back, buying. It wasn't the highest converting channel, but certainly when we look at that size of the list and what they were achieving from it, I hope that kind of highlights how valuable and why it's worthwhile really focusing on improving, building that list and then communicating with them as well. So there's a lot of different ways we can look at if you have an email list already or are looking to start one and build one, that we can collect email addresses and really want to, like I mentioned, get that quality customer or potential customer on there. And some of the basics would be having a sign-up form on your website so people can keep in touch. You might want to consider a pop-up form. I know some people don't like pop-up forms, but a lot of websites these days will give you a lot more control over what pages they appear on, how quickly they appear. They might not appear immediately, but after 30 seconds or 60 seconds, or where someone reaches the bottom of the page, or even when the website can predict that they're about to leave the page. So a lot of control we can have over them now as well. And you might want to consider giving people that incentive to subscribe with a discount off their first purchase. It's a very popular tactic, but it's popular because it works as well. So it needs to be something you're obviously comfortable with. We don't just want to focus on discounting with our marketing, but being given, a discount code for 10% off your first purchase is a really easy way to get someone to not only sign up, but then use that discount to purchase as well. And if they have a great experience, then they're much more likely to come back. We can have an option to have people sign up at the purchase page as well, include sign up forms on Facebook pages, use that Instagram link in bio. And also, I know George is really big on this, so I do recommend watching that webinar, encouraging your staff at Cellar Door to have people sign up. And this could be through a sheet, but what we're seeing and liking a more of these days is making use of things like QR codes to sign up forms, so people can easily self-subscribe on their own device, where, if it's awful to say, but something good to come out of the pandemic is we found a use for the QR code, and people are much more familiar and comfortable with scanning, that they know we can quickly open up that sign up form, subscribe ourselves, and particularly if it automatically sends us a discount code, then it's a bonus. It saves time from somebody manually keying in email address at the end as well, and it's saving us time as well as money. So a few tips there. You might be doing some of these already, but hopefully it's a bit of other food for thought. Something else to consider with your sign-ups is potentially collecting some extra information about people as they sign up that can help you segment your email campaign. So you're not just sending the same offer or the same emails to everyone, but you might be sending specific emails to certain groups of people based on their location, which we could use something like postcode. Particularly if you have a cellar door, you're running events, you want to be sending those information about events and invitations to people in the local area who are more likely to be able to come. So having geographic information might be useful. We're seeing it a lot these days as well with the lockdowns, where people are having offers that they're sending to specific regions, or it might be something like wine preference. So if you know that somebody prefers a red wine over a sparkling over a white wine, if you're having a particular sale or you've just released a new vintage Shiraz, that rather than send it to everyone, you might send it to that specific group. Now, this isn't essential, and it certainly works better when you have a larger list, and we're talking when you're getting into hundreds and thousands of email addresses. Certainly if you've got a small list and starting out, you don't want to be segmenting yourself so fine you're only sending an email to 10 people. But it's certainly easier to gather this information as your list is growing and then be able to use it down the track, rather than trying to kind of retrofit information afterwards when you've got thousands of subscribers that you have no idea where they're from and what they're interested in. So it can take a little bit of extra work, but sometimes with the sign-up forms, it's, might be as simple as an extra checkbox you can add, and people are self-selecting that information. You can also integrate your email marketing system, most email marketing systems, with your Google Analytics. So you've got that sales data, like you saw on some of my previous slides, the sales data from your email campaigns running directly into your
Hi Hi everyone. It just looks like Erica has experienced a little technical difficulty there. If you can just bear with us a couple of moments, we'll get that sorted and Erica back up on the screen in just a moment. Thank you. Erica, you're back with us.
All right, talking about digital and technology, and it all blows up.
There we
Sorry
go.
about that.
I will let you continue with your presentation. Thank you everyone for your patience.
I do apologise. It's one of the joys of, technology. You think it'd be used, but by now. Sorry, just picking up where we left off. Talking about our emails, we obviously want that plan. So figure out a time frame that's going to be feasible for you, so that we're not working last minute. So fortnightly, if you can manage it, if not monthly, we find, and I know Georgia was going to have some opinions on this as well, but certainly for our clients, we find having that monthly communication, as long as there is some value we're providing to our subscribers, really works well. Think about whether or not you're going to be looking at sharing a mix of topics. And again, we find this works really well with our clients, where we're sharing, what's happening at the winery, what's happening at the cellar door, those kind of updates. There might be industry news, team profiles, but certainly when we're talking about wine, that product offer, sales, new releases, getting that information out to that valuable database is really, really important as well. So a little bit on email there, like I said, I've got Georgia's webinar that existing members will be able to watch on the WCA website in the free resources. And when we talk about something like email being a low or no cost marketing activity and something that you can do to really build and grow your brand. One of the tools that a lot of our clients start off on is MailChimp, simply because it does offer that free plan for up to 2,000 subscribers. So really, really great to start with, and quite a robust platform that does all of the things that I talked about earlier, with allowing subscribe forms, integrating with pop-up forms, creating automated emails that send out discount codes, segmenting your database. So a really, really powerful tool, and a lot of great resources on their blog, not just about the MailChimp platform, but about how to improve your email marketing as well, and some great tips and tricks you can sign up for there. Also, if you're interested in making use of things like QR codes to quick link through to sign up forms, there's a lot of free QR code generators. You can Google, I haven't put it in any specific ones, but if you Google QR code generator or free QR code generator, there's lots of tools that you can enter the link that you want to be turned into a QR code. And it will create that graphic, that unique graphic for you that you can download and print out or include in your marketing, or give to your designer if you're working with someone as well. So do check that out there. Okay, I'll try and catch up a little bit, because I do apologise for that time. Jumping on to our next point, a little bit far ahead. So social media, had to mention social media. And certainly when it comes to, we're talking about building great brands, those who do social media well really, really stand out. And you can probably think of some brands yourself, not just in the wine industry, but brands that are really memorable. As soon as they appear in your feed, you know who they are, what they do, what they stand for. And such a great tool, and really a free tool that we can make use of as well. And focusing on those all the features that you have access to organically, without even having to dip your toe into paid advertising. So really valuable from a brand awareness perspective, but it's important to, as you probably know personally, can take a lot of time as well. So we want to make sure that we're focusing our attention appropriately. And in a lot of cases, we want to really focus on looking and using one or two social media channels really, really well. And these should be the ones that resonate the most and the best with our audience, that audience that we identified back in our strategy. It's not necessarily the platforms that have the most users. What we do see, particularly in wine, particularly in Australia, is Facebook and Instagram continue to be the dominant social media channels and continue to perform really well. But that's certainly not across the board as well. It's going to depend, like I said, on your brand and on your audience, the platforms that they're using, how they want to receive and consume information. So if you have existing social channels, you have a bit of a gauge on how many people are already following you, looking at similar brands, seeing how they're using their social channels as well, what kind of audiences they're getting, to give you an idea on, do we want to invest our time here or somewhere else? So when it comes to social media, the best thing to do, even if you have accounts already, they might have been quiet for a while, you might be new to it, is actually to start posting. So we often see a lot of people who get caught up in this almost like analysis paralysis of wanting to craft the perfect post. And it's certainly worthwhile having that care and attention with the work that you're doing and how you're communicating. But with social media, the feed moves so quickly that we really need to get in there and start. And particularly if we have that understanding of our strategy and our brand behind us, it should be feeding and influencing the work that we're, the updates rather, that we're sharing on social as well, and allowing us to create that habit for the regular posting that the social algorithms are really looking for. So when it comes to sharing on social, you want to be spending some time brainstorming a range of social topics that are going to be of interest to your audience and relevant to your brand and reflect your brand. With wine in particular, we see these like three main topics of people, place, and product work really, really well. So the people might be, particularly if it's a family-owned and operated business, sharing the stories of the family, the people who work in the winery, the winemaker, the cellar door team. We're talking about social media. It's a social medium. We love seeing and engaging with people and seeing the real people who are behind this brand that we love and that we're building, and these products that they're creating and sharing with us as well. So lots of ways that we can share updates about people in our social posts. Place. So the place is obviously very fundamental to wine and wineries. So that might be sharing pictures of the vineyards, pictures of the cellar door, supporting more the local region. Lots of ways that we can share and invite people in, particularly in these days where we're distanced. And people might not be able to actually visit your cellar door or come and even visit the state that you are in, but we're able to share that piece and that experience of the world with others. And then we've got our product. So we're producing wine, we're sharing wine, and these don't all have to be sales posts. I have to kind of stress, while email can work really well for direct sales, on social, we want to focus more so on creating that brand awareness and that overall experience and relationship that our community has, rather than just trying to sell. A little rule of thumb we use is kind of like one to 5, so 1 sales message in social to every 5 kind of other brand related messages. But even at your posts about wine don't all have to be sales messages. It might be an educational post about the process that goes into your wine. It might be celebrating particular wine days. If you follow our social accounts, we talk a lot about the different wine days. It might be sharing a new release. So, could be seen as sales, but if it's a brand new vintage or an award, it's a way of sharing and celebrating our product without necessarily having to say, buy it now for this price on our site. So you really want to be developing content around those topics, also anything that's really unique to your brand. So like we said earlier, if part of your strategy is leaving the world a better place than you found it, think about how you can share that in your social updates as well. So is it the fact that your winery completely runs on solar or you're using circular or regenerative farming techniques, that you can share that aspect as well. That's going to be of interest, and share that part of your story. So again, it's not going to cost you money, but there is that time investment of setting aside some dedicated space to plan this content in batches and make use of scheduling tools. And again, there's some free scheduling tools I recommend that allow you to have your updates post when it suits your audience rather than when it suits you. It also helps you kind of keep on top of it as well. I'm going to have to go through these a little bit quickly because I'm mindful that we've lost a bit of time, but I just want to quickly touch on some tips here when it comes to, again, free tools you can use. There's some really great editing options that are available within things like the Instagram app or even our phones that allow you to improve images prior to posting. So you can have that consistent look and feel in your feed. And then tools such as Canva, so you might work with a designer, but if you want to be able to quickly create your own, particularly like text-based updates to share, that might be sharing reviews or awards, a tool like Canva can allow you to create some really professional looking graphics that use your typefaces, your colours, for that consistent look and feel that you can then download and share on your social channels as well. So I do recommend checking those out. And finally, when it comes to social, remember that it is social and spend that time as well, rather than just focusing on what we're posting, what we're doing, scrolling through the feed, looking at what other people are sharing and posting, responding to comments, responding to DMs, liking other people's, and really engaging in that social community as well. It's such a valuable use of time that, again, can build that brand relationship and that great brand experience that people have with you. Jumping on to number 6, so getting close to the end here of our 7, I want to talk about reviews. And in this instance, I'm talking about consumer reviews and not wine writer or critic reviews. Not to say that they're not important, but again, talk about things that we can do for free to build our brand without a big spend. Consumer reviews are incredibly valuable. And when you've got consumers who are willing to talk about and represent and share, say how great your brand is, that is really a sign of a great brand. So you might have seen some of these kind of stats, and this is actually a relatively recent one that I came across from Revo, that 70% of consumers give more credibility to consumer created reviews and peer recommendations than professionally written content. And that's really quite profound if you're thinking about that 70%. So how do we get these? Again, with your website, you've got to work with what you've got, but do have a look and see whether or not your website could support product reviews. And don't only enable this feature, but make sure that you're encouraging customers to review your products. And this could be something like an automated email that goes out following their purchase, say 2 weeks after their purchase, they've received their delivery, just a quick email to say, we hope you loved your wine and we'd love you to come back and share a review with us. Or at your cellar door as well. If you've got people who are telling you how great they are, let them know they can go online and leave a review for the product there as well. It's also worthwhile, particularly if you have a cellar door, but certainly not only, making use of free online review tools like Google My Business. So this is the free Google tool that provides all the information on Google Maps, Facebook, and even TripAdvisor. So you don't have to be doing all of them. Have a look which accounts your business might already have listings on and look at claiming or enhancing those first of all. And you might also want to focus on them again, like with social media, doing 1 or 2 really well, making them your standout. I will recommend that focus on Google My Business, particularly again for wineries that have cellar doors, but certainly not exclusively, because you'll see here with this example that I've got search listings that have a higher quality of recent and relevant reviews and higher rate reviews tend to appear higher in search results. So these 3, for a generic search term like Winery Adelaide Hills, are sitting front and centre right up the top there of the search results due to the quantity and quality of reviews that they have. And this is before the first organic listing that is sitting, just at the bottom of the fold there. So with those reviews, I know they can be scary, but you always want to respond to them as well, as the business owner or a representative of the business, including those negative ones. You often might have an opportunity to turn a bad situation into a better one, or at least show people that you've made the attempt to take the, you've taken the feedback on board. You've taken the feedback on board and, like I said, fixed the situation or acknowledged it. These platforms will all give you notifications once you've actually claimed your listing, so make sure your contact details are up to date and again have that time to review and respond. And with these reviews, if reviews is something you really want to focus on, make sure everybody within your business is aware of that as well and have that process for encouraging your staff to let consumers know how they can leave a review if they get that positive feedback, either on the phone or on, via email or via the seller door as well. And I've just got a little text message there that I got from my dentist because I gave him a call back after, I'm actually quite terrified of the dentist and had to see a new dental hygienist a couple of months ago. And she was really, really fantastic with me to the point that I was thinking about it later on that afternoon and called back the clinic to say, look, I just wanted to pass on my thanks because she was really helpful with helping me deal with my anxiety around my checkup and clean. And the person who answered the phone firstly said, thank you so much for letting us know. I'll definitely pass that on to her. And then immediately she said, look, do you mind if I send you a link to leave a review? Because we know a lot of people don't like going to the dentist. And this is something that, if you're happy to share that, could really help us, share our services and her with more people. So immediately she had that process to follow up with me as well and made it super easy. Again, there'd be a bit more time and cost that go into setting up these types of automated emails, but it's certainly something that if somebody gives you some great feedback, you can say, thanks so much, I'll pass that on. And if you have some time to head over to Facebook or head over to Google and leave us a review, we'd really appreciate it. So finally, just touching on fulfillment, we've talked about a lot of online ways to build great brands, but fulfillment, particularly when we talk about D2C, is one of those physical ways that we can share our appreciation with our customers as well and really enhance that real life experience. And there's just a few tips here to think about. There's probably a little bit more investment considered with some of these, but do think about the way that people receive your product and how it compares to the experience they may have had at the seller door or online, and how you can really enhance it and provide some extra surprise and delight for them. So there might be some local partnerships you can develop, and you do some product swaps. You can pop an extra surprise item into the box for them. Maybe there's a seasonal treat that goes in there occasionally, or if you know it's their birthday coming up, or it's their 10th order, or those types of things. And that could be a way of keeping costs down if your product's sharing with others. You might want to invest in some useful or relevant items, some merchandise there, brand-related merchandise that you can pop in there as well. Or if we're looking at kind of no cost, even a handwritten or a personal thank you note can go a really long way. And if doing that to all customers is going to be too time-consuming with all of the orders you're getting, then maybe it's something you send to first-time or long-term customers as well. Or perhaps you're creating, batch printing some postcards that have a discount code they can share with friends and family. Maybe there's some tasting notes or a recipe card, just something a little bit extra you can pop into the box to show your gratitude and enhance that experience beyond that delivery and even beyond the time that wine might actually last with them. So thank you very much. Sorry for speeding up a bit there at the end, and I do apologise for cutting out. Thank you for sticking with me. These are our 7 ways that we recommend you consider adopting in your business to really build a great brand. And like I said at the start, it's not essential to jump in and do all of them. It's certainly not a case of being overwhelming, but once you have that strategy and that brand nutted out, look at some other opportunities that you might have to start or enhance those activities that you're already doing to really build that relationship with your audience, grow the not only audience, but brand loyalty and brand awareness that you have, which is really going to help with those long-term sales and business results as well. Like I said, I've collated all of those resources that I mentioned. There's free resources They're either all quite easy to search for, or if you have any questions, do let me know as well. Happy for you to get in touch with me about any of this that we've talked about as well. So thanks very much, Prue.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Erica. You have covered some fantastic points in, really quite a short amount of time. I'm sure everybody's taken a lot away from it. So thank you so much. There are a couple of questions to ask.
Fantastic.
Quickly. So the first one is in relation to the section on social media. And if you have any recommendations for the scheduling tools that can be used for social media?
Oh, yes. So I didn't speak about those specifically because I was a little bit mindful of time. But you'll see here, so for Facebook, Facebook actually has some inbuilt scheduling tools. So when you actually create a post in the publishing section of Facebook, and I can share some screenshots later if that helps, there's an option to either save it as a draft or schedule for a future date or even backdate. And there's some, within Facebook Creator Studio, it does allow for some scheduled posting to Instagram as well, but we find that can be a little bit buggy. So certainly I've found the Facebook inbuilt scheduling quite reliable, but for Instagram, and you can use it for Facebook as well, both Later and Buffer, they've mentioned those third from the bottom, and you can Google both of those, probably put scheduling at the end. Later and Buffer both offer free plans where you can connect to your Facebook and Instagram accounts, even Twitter and LinkedIn if you use those as well. It can basically just be one of each account and manage and schedule your content through there as well for free.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Then if we track back a little earlier in your presentation to the section on email marketing, there was a couple of questions that have come through. One on the discount codes. Do you recommend discount in follow-up email or direct on screen after putting in email?
Ooh. Personally, I do like the direct follow-up email. I find it allows people to make sure they can save it for, future reference. Not everybody is going to purchase immediately. And I always like to put myself in the situation of if I was receiving this, what would I do? Having that follow-up email, can help them not have that pressure to buy later. There's certainly options to do both as well. We have some clients where they'll show the discount code immediately, but also send it in an email, so they make sure they have it set as a one-time email as well.
And an additional aspect to that question was, what do you feel leads to less unsubscribers?
Or certainly like interesting email content and relevant and interesting updates can certainly help. Being mindful of the frequency that we're sending out emails as well. Sometimes, we feel like we've got a lot to say. There might be lots of releases, lots of launches, lots of activities, and can be tempting to, send an email, every couple of days, every week. But, people, can be quite busy and overwhelmed. So really thinking about what's the most important thing we have to share right now, and can we either time this out or can combine a couple of topics into one email so that we're not overwhelming people.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And in that same section, someone just asked if you could highlight again the details of the email marketing webinar that you mentioned.
Oh, yes. So I mentioned it here. So I didn't put the exact name, but it was by Georgia Rasmussen back in May, and it was talking about list growth. So keys to list growth or something like that. Perhaps I can send out a link afterwards. But it's in the, when you log into the WCA website and look through the previous webinar recordings from back in May. I can't remember, it was something to do with list growth, yes.
Yes, the one by Georgia Rasmussen on direct to consumer.
Yes.
Excellent. And another one, how do we determine what time our email recipients want to receive emails?
all. This is this is that $1 million question, and certainly over the years I've done a lot of research into this as well. So there's lots of articles that tell people that Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the best days to get emails. And the thing is, and you know, I'm sure once upon a time that may have been the most popular time, but certainly what we're seeing these days with how much people are connected, and particularly with email on phones, people are reading emails constantly throughout the week, throughout the day. And wine is quite an interesting one as well, where I was even doing some experiments over the last couple of months, because with previous email marketing work that I've done, I would never consider sending an email at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And I was sending some emails out with some wine offers for people at 7 and 8 o'clock at night. Generally, we would go out during the day, kind of like mid-morning, try and get people before their lunch break type thing, when they feel like they've got some time. But interestingly, those nighttime emails were actually generating a lot of sales quite quickly, because people were obviously, sitting on their phones while they're watching TV, scrolling through their emails. Oh yeah, I'm having some wine right now. That looks great. I'll buy some more. So unfortunately, I can't give an exact answer to the best time. With something like MailChimp, I know they don't offer it on their free plan, but I believe it comes in at either the essentials or the standard plan. They do have a send time optimization feature that's enabled. It does require you to have, a bit of history in your email sends on database, and actually predicts the best time for you to send based on your audience and your previous results. So that can be really useful to look at and consider as well. But I think kind of put yourself in the mind of, if you were receiving this email and this offer at this time, what's going to be the best time for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Erica. We've finished all the questions, and as per usual, everybody will receive a copy of this recording so they can reflect back on all those amazing tips that you've provided today, and also your contact details should anyone want to engage Parallax Design directly. So thank you again, and thanks everybody for joining us. The next webinar for WCA will be on Tuesday, the 7th of September, full disclosure on wine labels, what's important. So that will be a really interesting topic, and that's presented by Professor Armando Corsi from the University of Adelaide. Registrations are now live on the website for that one. And please remember, if you are a WCA member, all recordings from previous webinars, including the one that we referred to by Georgia Rasmussen, are held on the website and free access to everyone. If you have any suggestions on webinar topics you'd like us to cover for the rest of the year or into next year, please email me at wca@winecommunicators.com.au. That's all from us. Thank you so much for joining. Wherever you are in Australia, keep safe, and we look forward to seeing you online soon. Thank you.